Hello there and welcome. The controversy surrounding the concession agreement between Courtney Aviation Services Limited and the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria over the calling off by FAN, of course, of the lease for two projects, a hotel and conference center, to be located around the domestic wing of the Murtala Mohammed Airport 2 in Lagos, has been one that has generated much debate by many stakeholders in the aviation sector. The confusion on whether there was an agreement signed by both parties on this matter is something that will need to be resolved, and quickly as possible. But aside that, looking at the business of managing all commercial airports in Nigeria and providing service to both passengers and cargo airlines, is the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, FAN, living up to this mandate in the present administration? We sought to find out what has been the goings-on in terms of massive execution of projects in airports across the country, a recovering of debts owed FAN by airlines, security, funding, managerial style of the present leadership of FAN, and other issues. Our guest this week is Mr. George Oriesi, the Managing Director of the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, to fill us in on all of these issues. It promises to be exciting. I'm Ayatunde Balogun, and it's question time. Mr. George Oriesi, you're welcome to Question Time.
Thank you very much.
Now, it's a great pleasure to have you with us this week, looking at activities with the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria. Now, let's start. Perhaps I should start by asking you, of course, it's been in the front burner for quite a while now, in the year 2013. So many people have been talking about it, particularly those in the aviation sector, and that has to do with the controversy that has surrounded your agency, your body, FAN, and of course by Courtney over the purported cancelling, should I say, yes, of the lease of two projects. That's a hotel and of course a conference center located around the domestic wing of the Murtala Mohammed Airport. What's this controversy all about? I mean, what's going on?
I would rather not speak specifically to Courtney, particularly because we're in court with them on a number of issues. But I'll speak about concessions in general.
Exactly. And
try to clear the notion, the very wrong notion that is being put out there, that FAN is reneging on
its side of the contract. Was there any agreement, per se, between the two parties?
Yes, there are agreements. FAN entered into several agreements in the past. I choose to call many of them, especially the controversial ones, I choose to call them non-value-adding agreements, suboptimal agreements. What I mean by that is agreements that, when entered into, they are patently and transparently to the favor of the concessionaire and to the detriment or to the huge disadvantage of FAN. Right there, it jumps at you. Now, for somebody coming in from the outside, I had a look at some of these concessions, and as I read through many of them, and an airport manager of many years standing, I nearly fell off my chair, one after the other, as I read these concessions, and I actually thought, what the hell is going on here? But it turns out that all of these concessions, contrary to the belief that FAN enters into these concessions, if you really go and dig in, most of them were impositions, really, on FAN as a body. And I must tell you that when I first came, I did approach a number of these key concessionaires, and I said, this thing is unsustainable. You know that. We need to renegotiate it. And in each case, being masters of the universe, the people would say, look, you're just coming, you don't really know what's going on here. This is Nigeria.
In other words, you just have to dance to
just
the tune.
Manage your organization, forget about it. And I said, no. This organization is in a hole. And to dig it out, these are fundamental things that need to be corrected in order to dig it out of the hole. And it's unsustainable. These things are things that are signed for years. And if I go into the details of each of these concessions, the fact is I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that FAN is 100% right. We don't just jump and do things. We consult with at least 3 independent, top senior advocates of Nigeria to advise us before we make any move. And so far, they've been correct. But we've always been on the back foot. FAN has been a government agency that's pliant, so people take advantage of you. They rush to court. They are always going behind to get orders without our knowledge. What they call them ex parte or something like that. They go there and they get an order, and they are very good at making a lot of noise about it and always putting FAN on the back foot. Unfortunately, fortunately, FAN is no longer on the back foot. We're now on the front foot. We're now being aggressive. We're actually taking them to court properly now to address the issues on the ground.
Now, was there actually a court order restraining FAN from taking over the lease of these projects, if I may put it that way, from these things that we're talking about here?
Look, there have been a lot of court orders. There have been counter court orders. They go to court, we go to court. To the best of our ability, any action that we've taken, we have made sure that we have advice from independent senior advocates of Nigeria saying that within the context of this, you can do this. Within the context of this, you can do this. And all these things are being tested in court. At the end of the day, it's court that's going to say if any action has been taken. To start with, what you're really talking about, I know, is by Courtney.
Exactly.
If I told you that ab initio, from the very start, the concession was already null and void, because we were supposed to approve a design for a terminal, which we did. They went and built a terminal that we did not approve. That's 10 times the cost of the terminal we approved. When I say 10 times, that's 3.9 billion to 38 billion as they claim to have spent building. Now, if you juxtapose the two, for a 12-year BOT, the numbers don't make sense at all. You can't go and start investing 38 billion in a 12-year BOT, given the numbers. But you can go and invest 38 billion as you claim to have spent, and then come back after building and say, well, since I spent 38 billion, I now need 36 years to recover my money. But the conditions for your 12-year BOT in global airport terms are ridiculous. But let's say for 12 years they were even understandable. How can you now expect to move from 12 to 36 years without addressing those already ridiculous conditions for 12 years? You want to extend them to 36 years. It doesn't make sense. You cannot be the sole provider in this terminal of yours of domestic traffic, domestic scheduled airline operations out of the entire Lagos state, which was ridiculous on a 12-year basis. You now want to take that for 36 years from this terminal. In that case, there will be no ARIC. There will be no Air Nigeria when it came up, because this terminal doesn't even have the capacity to manage all those airlines. In other words, the growth of our industry will be stunted for 36 years, for more than a generation. It doesn't make sense. But these are things we will argue in court. These are facts that the public will get to find out when we go and argue them in court.
But what danger does all of this portend, in the long run? Because obviously time and, of course, shall I say, money is what we're talking about here. And whatever it is that is going on behind the scenes, Nigerians want to see action, in terms of the way our airports are being run and with all the infrastructures in place. Are we just going to be spending so much time dealing with this? What's the way out in all of this?
Well, you see, the issue here is that public-private partnerships are the way to go in the world, and they're the right thing to do. But public-private partnerships, as practiced elsewhere in the world, is not get some masters of universe private people to come and take advantage of government agencies. That's not the idea. It's a partnership. It's you add value to me, I add value to you. Together, we move forward. And let me say that the airport business is a captive business model. It's a high investment-intensive environment, but it's a high-yield environment because it's a captive business model. People will travel. So to a large extent, many of the investments in the airport business model are viable. They're viable, but the airports, the whole idea of concessioning in the airport is that the airport is a platform where more than 300 different types of businesses happen. The airport authority